Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rapid Agency Growth Podcast with me, Abul Hussain. Now, I hope you are watching this in the SMMA Mastermind group, especially if you're in the agency community and you're looking to grow your agency to six figures and beyond. But if you're not in the group, what are you doing? Go to smmamastermind.com or find our group on Facebook. Now, today I have a very special guest who's joining me all the way from Namibia. And this is quite a special episode because often the type of questions I get on Messenger, on Facebook, tend to be from people who are in India, Pakistan, the Philippines, even some places in Africa. And our guest today has been able to scale her agency up to $15,000 plus months, all the way from Namibia. So there's hopefully this is going to serve as an inspiration to some of you people who are watching from, as we call it, the developing world. That's a polite way to call it. I know some people call it the third world, but we're going to call it the developing world. Femke Grundmann, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. And, it gives me actually great pleasure to have you on here as a guest because, for about a year, I've seen you in various different Facebook community groups, posting questions, asking questions, and clearly you've been taking action as well in the background. So for the people who might not know who you are, how about a little bit of an introduction?
Perfect. So my name is Femke Grundmann. I was born and raised here in Namibia, but I'm based in Johannesburg, and I own an agency. And I started out 2 years ago, and this is my second year right now, and I came from far.
I can imagine.
As Abdul told you, I've been just all around all these Facebook groups, and here we are today. So
here you are today.
An awesome journey.
That's awesome. So you've been at it for 2 years. When did your business really start taking off then?
I would say, can I be honest and frank?
Absolutely.
I've had to rebuild my business so many times within the last 2 years because I would get clients and then lose them. But I think for the last 4 months is when things really started taking off, and I've been able to keep those clients because for a large part of when I started out the agency, it was like I'd get clients and then lose them, then get clients and then lose them. So I think for the last 4 months has really been the time where I've seen a lot of growth. So
no, that's
to
awesome.
answer your question.
No, this is fresh growth, and this is kind of obviously, hopefully, a fresh story, not something that people are going to find on YouTube that is 5 years old, and they're like, "Do these strategies work today?" And what you're talking about, is it relevant today? So, Femke, what kind of business owners do you serve, and how do you serve them?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
Sure. What kind of business owners do you serve with your agency, and what services, I suppose, do you provide for them?
Yeah. So what I serve is e-commerce businesses, so businesses that sell products online. And it's mainly businesses that are doing like 25K and upwards in terms of revenue. Yeah. And in terms of how I serve them with SMS marketing, so text message marketing. And that's basically it. That's my main offer right now. So I'm making a transition from... Sorry.
No, you go ahead and finish off, and I'll come back.
Yeah, so I'm making a transition from Facebook. So I still have a few Facebook ads client, but my main offer right now is text message marketing.
Right, and that's exactly what I was about to dive into, because people think of e-com, and everyone's emailing, messaging these e-com store owners, these Shopify store owners, telling them obviously, I can run ads for you and I can get great ROAS. Now, obviously, with iOS 14, I'm not sure how they're doing. But I mean, where did this whole idea of SMS come about from? Because this is kind of when everyone else is going zig, you're going zag. And if you were to email me as an e-com store owner and you were talking about SMS over Facebook or something else, I'd be like, this is different. So where did the whole SMS idea come from?
Well, it came from tons of research, actually. And yes, I was one of them. I was offering Facebook ads clients because I think for a lot of agency owners, once you're into the space, the only thing that you hear is Facebook ads, right? You go on YouTube and everybody's talking about Facebook ads, right? But that's not the only mechanism that you can deliver results with, right? And so I researched, what else can you offer these people, e-commerce business owners, without using, paid ads and all of that. And a big thing that I learned with, just any type of business, whether that be like e-commerce or digital agency, a big thing is retention, right? So how many clients can you actually keep? It's all well and good you're getting all these clients, but then are you able to keep them? Can you really call yourself an agency if you have like a high churn rate, right? So I discovered that for e-commerce businesses also. So a lot of them are out for traffic, and that's also the thing that's, that they hear. But the important thing is also keeping customers, right? Being able to have a high retention rate.
Retention,
So I
absolutely.
had to, yeah, yeah. So I discovered that as a principle for business as a whole and also for money, right? It's not about how much money you make, but also how much you keep. So that principle of retention kept coming up and coming up. So I was like, okay, how can I provide the service, not only, use SMS as a retention mechanism, but also get clients on there, right? So yeah, I did a lot of research on text message marketing. And I was like, okay, I can actually provide this as a service. And all these platforms are coming up: Postscript, SMS Bump. And I was seeing, oh my goodness, these companies are being sold for like billions. So there must be something there.
Interesting.
And yeah, I decided to educate myself on SMS and yeah, just provide it as a service.
That's absolutely awesome. Absolutely love it when people are innovating. And here's the funny thing. It's not necessarily innovating because SMS has been around for what, decades and decades, but be offering SMS as a service as an agency, that's obviously taking things in a rather new direction. So, I mean, I do have a question for
Definitely.
you, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to have the same thing in the back of their minds. SMS is such an easy thing to do. Why would an e-commerce store owner bring on an agency and not just sign up for an SMS platform and keep on blasting their list on the daily basis?
That's a great question. Well, SMS is easy. I wouldn't say it's easy, it's simple. It's really,
Mm,
really hard to get subscribers on, though. You have to do a lot of education
yeah.
and also saying the right thing at the right time. That's also very important. And like you mentioned, SMS is a very old service. A lot of these big companies are using it: Facebook, Google, all of them. But for e-commerce businesses, SMS is a relatively new thing. So even within the e-commerce space, not a lot of businesses are using SMS. In
Mm,
fact, many of them don't actually know how to navigate the space, and many of them use it as sort of a mechanism just to mass text their audience, but that's
right.
the incorrect way of going about it. So yes, SMS is simple, but actually getting that mechanism to convert is another
Yeah.
story. I mean, just like Facebook ads, right? I mean, Facebook ads has democratized advertising. Everyone has
Yeah.
access to it. And you can say it is simple, but actually being able to use the platform and make
Yes.
money off of it
Absolutely.
is another
Yeah.
story.
No, totally get that. So the kind of SMSs that you send out to kind of get people to engage, open, click through, whatnot, I mean, are they primarily based around special offers, or do you do content marketing through SMS as well?
Yeah, so it varies also from brand to brand. I have to say that, right? So yes, we do offers, but for a lot of the clients that I'm working with, also we use it as a customer service platform, right? So giving out content and also finding out, do people actually like the content, or do people like the product? How would they like to improve it? Yeah, so it's not just being like a promotional mechanism, but also really engaging with your customers and being able to find out, okay, what it is that they actually like, what keeps them on the platform, which is more than a lot of platforms can actually say. You're not just getting revenue from a platform, but you're doing market research, you're doing customer service also on this one platform. So it gives a lot of benefits if you're a product business owner. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, obviously, a lot of these e-commerce store owners are getting harassed on a daily basis by hundreds and hundreds of marketers, as you can imagine, through email marketing, people who are taking stuff off Google or through a course or something like that, copying and pasting it word for word. Um, what response do you get from e-commerce owners when you are kind of pitching SMS through email, or do you not even talk about SMS when you email them? Do you kind of go in through another angle?
I do talk about SMS, but a small portion, to be honest. Also with SMS, I find that I have to do a lot of education, with the prospects that I'm jumping on the meeting with. But in terms of, cold emailing them, I don't sell the service. I just,
Right.
sell the meeting. And if anything, the way that I approach cold email is through, just like I said, selling the meeting. I
Hmm.
only speak about SMS for a small portion of it. But yeah, but also leading through value, so I don't just go there like, hey, I'm another agency, can we hop on a meeting? I mean, I've just gone away from that approach, to asking for a meeting in the first email. Yeah. So
Hmm.
does that answer the question? Because I feel like
Absolutely,
I have a
absolutely, and
tangent.
no, absolutely, and obviously, this show is all about growing your agency. So we love talking about tips and tactics on prospecting and whatnot. So you've touched upon email. Now there are people out there who are sending hundreds and hundreds of emails a day using one platform or another. Are you sending a huge amount of emails out on a daily basis, or are you identifying your ideal client in some other way and taking a more of a bespoke, more personalized approach?
Both.
Right.
So I find that I have to balance, doing personalization, but also sending out volume. So I tried both methods and I isolated it. So I tried going really personalized, right? But then I found that it takes ages. Like I would
Yeah.
spend 7+ hours, then I would come out with only like 10 leads. And because it takes quite a lot of research, right? If you have to go the really, really personalized route.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, from those 10 emails, how many of them are really going to respond to it? So I found that, having that balance and, balancing personalization, but also sending out volume is what really works for me. And I don't like it when people talk about just using one mechanism and
Mm.
isolating the other. Really, you have to test on your own. And I mean, depending on the niche that you are in, the audience, so it's all these variables that come into play. And I've also found a way in terms of personalization. So I don't necessarily just give people like compliments. Like I know that's a big thing where, and I
I hate
always felt that was so fake.
that.
But I just kept doing it because I felt like, okay, everybody else is doing it, and like, surely it must work if it's working for X, Y, and Z. Um, so I just changed that completely. I mean, there are many ways to personalize cold email, especially if you're using software like Lemlist. You
Mhm.
don't necessarily need to always use that line that you have to I'm not sure what software your audiences use, but there's this software called Lemlist,
Lemlist is a
and
big one that a lot of people use when they're trying to personalize things. I think people use GMAS, people use all sorts of stuff. But
yeah.
carry on about Lemlist, that's going to be quite familiar with people.
Yeah, so if you're using Limnist and you're familiar with the icebreaker, you don't necessarily need to always use it to compliment people. I always felt like that was ass kicking, I mean, ass kissing, and it was
Yeah.
came off so fake, like you're just trying to give a compliment and then talk about what you want and what you're going to get out of the person. So there are many ways to personalize. So you use those variables dynamically, and it doesn't always need to be for a compliment. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's a good
If we
start, I
have to go
suppose.
into it, I probably talk about it the whole day, but yeah.
No, that's totally fine. Obviously, we kind of like to hear about different approaches that people are taking than kind of, using the same script over and over again. So, in terms of client acquisition, is email marketing your primary source of picking up new clients?
Yeah. Email is, and LinkedIn as well. So I use email
Okay.
and LinkedIn.
No, that's great to hear, because often I even get these questions where people are asking the same thing over and over again. And I have to kind of tell them that, if you're going after e-commerce owners, you probably, but you're better off scraping a list and sending emails out. You're not going to go and connect with a lot of good quality store owners in the Facebook group. So it's great when you hear it from someone else who's actually doing it. Now, in terms of your packages, how do you position it so that it becomes a no-brainer for your clients to say, okay, let's try this out?
Yeah. So depending on where the client is and in their journey, right? So as I said, I only approach brands that are doing 25K and upwards, but many of them, I've noticed, many e-commerce brands have cash flow issues.
Mm-hmm.
So what I tend to do is that if they can't afford the retainer, what I'll do is, hey, look, if you're not able to afford this retainer, not a lot of people can. What I'll then do is just downsell them on a consulting or a coaching
Right.
offer. Yeah. So then in that coaching offer, I'll say, okay, let's set this up for you one time. And I also teach you about, optimizing your flows and how to think about approaching SMS, all of that I
Mm-hmm.
included. And yeah,
Okay,
so those
that's
are the
interesting.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the done for you approach where I will do the work and the retainer is this much, or I've got this done with you approach. I'll show you how to do it and the retainer is this much. So, in terms of kind of, I suppose, your total revenue, what percentage of it would you say is in this consulting, this coaching part, and how much of it is in actually delivering the service yourself?
Yeah. So, in terms of the two packages that I have, I noticed that retainers still make a huge part of it because it is recurring revenue. So,
Mm-hmm.
that makes up about 70% of it, plus minus 70. And then in terms of consulting, it would make about 30. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
30/20. Yeah. So that's a once off thing. So
Right.
it doesn't really provide a way for me to, keep making money off of it or,
Sure.
yeah, make monthly revenue. What I am thinking of doing is also providing like a program around SMS, but it would need also a lot of education on my part because I'm still, navigating the what's this
The
SMS
landscape,
itself, right? So I'll need the what?
the SMS landscape.
Yes, the landscape. That's the perfect word, also. Yeah. So, yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I think, maybe a year down the line that I can, sort of offer a program around it
Yeah.
for the clients. And then, yeah, so there's many ways to actually make
Yeah,
revenue through your agency. Who
and
knew?
I
I
love it.
didn't know this like a year ago. Yeah.
Honestly, I love it because here's the thing: you're quite honestly saying you're pretty much learning on the job. But the beauty of this is you know more than your clients, and you know enough to obviously package it up, sell it as a service,
Absolutely.
and then kind of learn off their buck, and but also deliver great results because obviously you've been able to retain these clients. So in terms of
Yeah.
your clients, you're based in Namibia, and I'm guessing you're selling internationally as well as locally. What does the makeup of your client look like right now?
Okay, so I do have local clients. Yes, that's right. But they only make a small portion of it. I would say like 70% of it is international. No,
Mm-hmm.
not 70. I'm lying. I would say 60. Yeah,
Still high.
60% of it. Yeah, so 60% of it international clients, and then 40% of it local.
Right. And when we say international, are we talking about just the US or other countries as well?
No, just the US. So, in
Right.
terms of, just to explain a bit more, for the international clients, that's what I'm offering SMS for. But
Right.
locally, I don't offer SMS. It's still, clients that I have for Facebook, which I've had for a while
Right.
now. Yeah,
Okay. So you need
that
to adapt, obviously, based on who you're selling to. Now, the whole thing with SMS marketing, especially in Europe, is the whole complexity around, having permission to
the
market to
laws and all
people,
of
the
that.
laws and GDPR and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, do you face any of that in the US market? I do know their privacy laws are a bit softer.
Hello, I lost you there for a
Oh,
second.
sorry,
You're like
did you get
frozen.
that?
Yeah.
No, I mean, in terms of the US, are you finding that SMS marketing laws are a lot easier to go by than Europe and the UK, so that it's easier to sign on clients willing to try this new method out, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't really tested out the UK, to be honest. I would be lying to you if I said, it's easier. But why I went for the US is because of the platform that I'm using, Postscript. So it's well known in the US, particularly. I mean, the platform was particularly used, built for Shopify brands. So it was sort of an easy entry for me, to sell the service because those of them, the e-commerce brands that are familiar with SMS, they mainly know about it through Postscript. So
Right.
then, yeah, I would sort of come under the guise of Postscript and say, hey, yeah.
Okay. No,
And
that.
then,
Sorry, go on.
sorry,
No, carry
I
on.
was just about to say the laws are just as strict. I mean, in terms of SMS and all of that, you should not have SMS someone without their consent. It should be
Right.
explicit. Yeah. So the laws are just as strict and the fines can be quite hefty. So I remember in the beginning when I said I had to do a lot of education on SMS with certain prospects, that's what I meant because a lot of them are scared of using SMS, particularly
Hmm.
because of the law. So I have to, tell them like, hey, look, we are familiar with the laws. You just have to get consent explicitly. Like, I mean, if a visitor comes on the store and you're trying to get their number, that little box has to be unchecked. So I've seen a lot of e-commerce brands check it by default. And what I'll do is just tell them, hey, look, you need to get explicit consent. Otherwise, you can be fined for like $500 per SMS. So imagine if you're sending
Right.
out like 10,000
Thousands. Yeah.
SMSs. It's, oh my God, it's going to be a hefty fine. That can even put you out of business.
Mhm.
So, that type of education and just that reassurance that you're familiar with the law and all of that helps, put the client at ease. And yeah.
That's very interesting because I always thought in the US you have like a soft opt-in regime where if someone has bought a product from you, you can send them an SMS. So it's interesting to hear that their privacy standards have been tightened because it's the same in the UK, in the whole of Europe, where you need that explicit permission and it can't be, when they've given you permission, they need to click on the box. It can't be auto-filled and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And that's why people are scared because in the EU the fines are very similar in terms of 4% of your turnover or 20 million euros. So
Oh
it's
my
yeah,
God.
yeah. I mean
That's insane.
we've had fines going out in nine figures to some companies in the UK for data breaches, not for sending an
Oh
SMS,
my
but
God.
for a data breach. No, absolutely. Now, Femke,
It's insane.
I know I've only got you for half an hour. So one thing I do want to ask you is for those of the people who are watching this who are kind of in the same position that you were maybe 6 months ago, where you're still trying to figure things out, you're trying to kind of, get to your first 5-figure month, because that is when you have the funds to actually experiment a bit more. You can bring people on, you can, split the revenue and the profits with them. What's the best advice you can give someone who actually wants to grow and they want to grow fast?
Okay, so I would say 3 things, right? And this is also based off of experience, right? So I'm not just saying this, airy fairy stuff without experience. The first thing is that you always have to focus on prospecting and don't get attached to the data. Just it's a numbers game, right? When I spoke of personalization and also balancing that volume up. So that's number one. I mean, even on bad days when you're sort of feeling unmotivated, you've gotten so many rejection emails or nothing at all. It's important to get those 20 emails out per day or get those 20 leads or even just set up an automated email sequence. Just pump up those numbers. Really, really do that. That's the most important for any business. Prospecting is number one, right? Number two is making really good financial decisions with your business. And I don't think this is spoken a lot in the agency space because a lot of people focus on, getting clients, and that's the loudest drum being, drummed. But really making good financial decisions is so important when it comes to your business, and that's something that I struggled with. My mindset was really broken when it came to finances, particularly with your business. So if you get a client, don't eat the money. do not don't go splurge it on friends, go on a night out, or even if you're tempted to give it to your mom or your family and things are so bad at home, really invest it back into your business, because that is really what's gonna move the needle forward. I tell you not. Like, there are months where I'd get the money, then eat it, and then the next month I would have no money at all for Limblist. So then, it's like the cycle repeated itself. So these small things really make a big difference. Then number 3, retention. Yeah. Was that what I wanted to say? I had something else in mind, but retention is also very, very important. It's really important that you're able to, keep those clients, because as I said, for that year that I was running the agency, it was really, really hard for me to keep clients. And I thought, oh my God, like, this is so hard. I keep getting clients and then I lose them, and then I keep getting clients and I lose them. So then I figured out, like, if I focus on the retention aspect of it, then I can keep more clients. I can make much more revenue. The other thing that I forgot, which I wanted to mention, was that don't be stingy when investing in people, and this is another aspect that I had, perspective that I had, which was so broken. And because I started out media buying, right? I was freelancing on Upwork, right? So a lot of the times when I would get a client, I would approach it in that, like, I'm going to do everything myself, right? And I thought, like, if you know the service delivery aspect of it, then you're a business owner. That was my thinking, but little did I know, and obviously now I know so much better. Invest in your people. Don't be stingy paying people the amount that they're worth. That's the only way that they're going to stay. And I see a lot of agency owners, scared to invest in their people because in the back of their minds, they're thinking, like, if I expose this person to all my business, trust is a big issue with businesses, and not just for agency owners, but in general, right? So if you're letting this person into your business, giving them access to all the information that you have, paying them that much, you run the risk of them leaving, right? Because there's so many agency owners, so little media buyers. So they basically have a lot of options. And I was in that position, right? So you want to make sure that you really invest in those people, because they're what I call your product, and not to dehumanize it, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that the agency game is a people's game, right? You're dealing with people at the end of the day. And if you don't love those people, if you don't want to invest in those people, then they're going to leave. I see so many agency owners messaging me like, hey, my media buyer left me. Can you recommend another one? I mean, yeah, you really have to approach it very differently. So I mentioned 5 things: prospecting, making really good financial decisions with
Yeah.
your
Don't
agency.
spend the money, reinvest it in your business.
Don't spend the money. Guys, please listen to this one. This is the one that I had to learn the hardest also. Retention, investing in your people. What else did I mention?
I think it was 4.
Actually.
It
Yeah,
was
4,
4,
not
wasn't it?
5.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Just to kind of recap, prospecting, you got to do that every day, whether you like it or you don't. Femke said you could send 20 emails
Yeah,
out a day. I'd say do more if you can do
do
more
more if you
without
can. Yeah,
going insane. Reinvest your money, your early money that comes in. Don't go out and spend it with your friends or your family. Reinvest it into your business so that you can grow faster. 3, retention, focus on retaining those clients, because it's often very easy to sign a client. And it's
yeah,
very difficult for them to keep them beyond month 1. And number 4, invest in your talent. Don't be stingy with people. At the end of the day, this is a people's business. If you
yeah,
take care of your media buyers, if you take care of all of the other freelancers that you're going to bring in, whether they're building a funnel, a landing page, doing your copywriting, or setting up emails or whatever, if you take care of people, they will stick around with you for the long run. And the best agencies that you see out there are those with the best teams, the best minds. It's not, at the end of the day,
absolutely.
gone are the days where clients just want someone to do media buying. It was very easy before all of this privacy stuff, iOS 14, that, okay, you know what, I'll just create something on Canva and I'll run an ad and I'll make tons of money because the magic Facebook pixel is so clever and it's going to find me all of these customers. Every time we think we're kind of on top of the mountain, we see a new peak arrive. So the game has totally changed. You need to be innovating, whether
Absolutely.
it's on the creative side, on how you're helping your clients engage with their customer base, whether it's SMS or email ads or whatever it might be. You always got to be kind of having that mindset of continuous improvement, continuous learning, and also reinvesting in yourself. I think that should be the 5th one.
Yes. Can I say one last thing, right?
Sure,
What you said
absolutely.
was great, great. The other thing that I would also like to, tell agency owners out there is that you really need to think for yourself. And I think a lot of the times, in the space with social media also, and I think it's, due to the algorithm and all of that, a lot of us suffer from groupthink.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, and it's really, really hard to get out of that bubble. But I think it's very, very important to be able to think for yourself. At the end of the day, if you're, in business, you can't rely on somebody else to make decisions for you. So if somebody else says this and it got like 1,000 likes, and if they say change your business to SMS, now you're going to change your service to SMS. Like, it doesn't work that way, and you're not going to be able to compete sustainably. At the end of the day, business is competition. Let's remember that. So if everybody else is doing what everybody else is doing, then it's really, really hard for prospects to decide like who to go with. So if everybody else has the same script, everybody else has the same service, just think
Yeah,
for yourself. Please do yourself a
yeah.
favor. You're an adult. Think for yourself. Stop following the crowd. And that's something that I'll keep saying, because a lot of agencies suffer from it. Something goes viral, then they're going to change their business to like lead generation. Then something goes viral, then they're going to change their business to e-commerce. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not how you run a business. Yeah, so that's something that I'm not just saying that to make people feel bad. It's something that I had to experience myself and I had to go through. So that's another important key that I
Yeah.
would like to add. So
And
6.
I give that comment 1,000 likes. Often people ask me a question and they're surprised when I give them an answer that is, I don't know. There are so many
Yeah.
people that I need to tell. Actually, you want to know what will sell? Go and speak to your market, right? Go and speak to business owners in the market.
Yeah.
I can just say things to make you feel good. You can go in groups, and you know what? Everybody's going to pat your back and whatnot. But here's the thing: none of these guys are making money because if they were, they'd
Absolutely.
tell you to go out and test and learn, because that is the name of the game. That is the only way you're going to grow. And your roadmap is your roadmap. My roadmap will not be your roadmap. Femke's roadmap is not going to be your roadmap. It's what you go out, what you learn for yourself. And at the end of the day, the ability to make good decisions comes from the experience of making bad decisions. Now, Femke, I've had you on for a very, much longer than I asked you to come on for. But before I let you go,
No
any
problem.
final words of advice or tips, or if someone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So tips I've given them, right?
Okay.
Any last tips? Yeah, so I think those 6 come off of the top of my head in the one that you, or 5 in the one that you mentioned. In terms of where you can find me on Facebook, Femke Grundmann, as the screen says, and then on LinkedIn, Femke Grundmann. My IG just went down, so I guess I'm locked out of it for a while until I create a new account. But those 2 platforms I'm on, right? LinkedIn, Facebook.
Awesome. On that note, Femke, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. And please don't blast my DMs. Please.
Well, you're going to get a
Please.
lot of people who are probably going to say, well,
Oh, God.
well, if they want to ask any questions, if you're watching this on Facebook, then please leave them in the comments below, and
Yeah.
people
And
will
rather in the
answer it.
comments. Yeah.
Yes,
Unless
and we
it's
got the
something really
replay up
big.
as well. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for having me, by the way.